Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and with me is Sam from Let's Listen.
Hey Dan, glad to be here. This is great. I've been a fan of your podcast for a while, so it's nice to be on finally.
Yeah, same. I've really enjoyed your podcast as well, and I'm glad we get to come together to talk about Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I think this is going to be fun to I don't know, enjoy this game together.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit, but I think it's the kind of game I don't know if I would have played on my own without kind of this excuse to do it, but I'm really glad I did. I mean, yeah, we'll get into it, but yeah, I'm glad we did this. So.
Me too. I don't know if I would have picked this up or not, and so I'm glad that this occasion brought it to happening for sure. Yeah, I guess with that we'll jump into. Oh, actually, sorry. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Let's Listen? I forgot to do that early. Where can people find you? What's your podcast about? That kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So my podcast is called Let's Listen. It's sort of a play on like the Let's Play genre, but it being a podcast, obviously it can't be a Let's Play. You can't see any of the gameplay. You're just listening. So I like to think of it as kind of an audio only Let's Play is kind of the genre that's coming up in the podcast world. There are a couple others like it, but I mean, I guess what it comes from is like you, I love games that tell a good story, and I wanted to make a podcast that highlights video game narratives. What I wanted to do differently, though, was instead of talking about them, I wanted listeners to experience them in a really immersive way. So what I do with Let's Listen is I take the raw audio of games, I cut out all the gameplay, all of the like boring bits and loading screens and stuff, and then I piece it back together in a way that tries to tell a really seamless story. And I act as the narrator basically to help listeners visualize what's going on. But as much as possible, I try to sit back and let the games speak for themselves.
That's awesome. That's cool. And they very much so do. The episodes of Sam's show that I've listened to have been awesome. I'd highly encourage you to check out his podcast. Also, at the end, we'll go deeper into Let's Listen. The links will be inside the show notes, all of that stuff. But highly recommend checking his show out. But yeah, I guess with that, we'll jump into Brothers a little bit. So, a description for this game is guide two brothers on an epic fairy tale journey from the visionary Swedish film director Joseph Fares and the top-tier developer Starbreeze Studios. Control both brothers at once, and you experience co-op play in a single-player mode like never before. Also, production-wise, this was developed by Starbreeze Studios, as we saw up there. And this is really their biggest game. They've done Payday 2. There was Overkill's The Walking Dead, which was supposed to be big and then flopped really hard and I think got canceled.
Yep.
So, yeah, recently. So, not great. Joseph Fares, though, has left the studio and has continued doing co-op style games. A Way Out, which was bigger a couple years ago, and then more recently, It Takes Two. Are both games that he directed. So he's kind of continued along this path of, I don't know, co-op games.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's cool that I mean it really shows in the game, but I mean this was really guided by an actual director, like a film director, and I think it really shines through. And yeah, I mean you said like visionary. I think he's a pretty visionary guy. And yeah, I think as we'll talk about, I think because of that, the game really plays as almost more of an experience than like an actual game almost. But yeah, we can talk more about that.
Yeah, it does feel like it sort of fits in a certain genre of games that would be that way. I would agree. And yeah, it's interesting. But I guess with that, we will jump into our recap of the game. So we'll be kind of hitting up the main stuff on the story. So if you haven't played Brothers, I would go play it and then come back. It's, I think, like 2 or 3 hours. It was pretty short.
Very short, yeah. It's a great experience. It's very short. If you haven't played it yet, yeah, I'd highly recommend, I don't know, pausing and going to get it. I think it's on sale a lot. It's on like every platform. Yeah, I don't think you'll regret it. And then you can come back and listen to this if you want.
Yep, definitely. So, okay, the game begins, and it starts with a flashback. We've got our younger brother, and he's on a, like, rowboat, and there's a storm going on, and his mother has fallen off the boat into the raging sea. and he's trying to get her out, and he can't get her, and then she kind of sinks away. And for me, I didn't know anything about this game coming in, and so that was like, okay, this game is a lot more serious and heavy than I anticipated right out the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I knew just from reputation that it was kind of known as like a tearjerker almost. So I was expecting it to be sad, for sure. But yeah, it really starts off pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah. I think just because maybe the cover art's like kind of bright, so I was like, okay, maybe it's like a little dark, but it'd probably be kind of nice. And
Yeah.
this was like, nope, never mind. You're in for a heavier game, and so get ready. And that certainly continues as we go. So we then pick up in the present. You've got two brothers. I'm probably going to call them older and younger brother through the game, but Naya is the older brother and Nai is the younger brother. And also, I guess, related to this is what they call each other. We don't necessarily know that's their names, but it seems like it probably is. Because they speak I think a made-up language, as far as I could tell in the research I did, is sort of like Animal Crossing talk, almost, or something.
Yeah. Yes. It's a fictional language. I looked into it a little bit. I think it's like a mix of like Lebanese and something else. But yeah, it's like what it actually reminded me of in a funny way was like Simlish, which is obviously like much more whimsical and matches like thematically with like The Sims. But it has kind of the like, I don't know, like Germanic feel almost to it, and it sounds very it matches the like more serious dark tone, I think, this kind of fictional language.
I agree. It didn't stand out as like being not matching the game. You're right. I think it did match really well. But with that, so there's not like subtitles or anything really.
Yeah.
Everything to the player for you is communicated by like body language, what's happening, and if they're yelling at each other, their voices might get louder or things like that. But like you don't know the actual words being stated.
Yeah. One of the first things I did actually, because I played it on Switch and was playing on handhelds, and the volume was kind of low, and they started talking, and I like couldn't quite hear them. So the first thing I did was I tried to turn on subtitles because I thought I just like wasn't hearing it right. But then I quickly like, no, they're just gibberish. But you can totally make out what they're saying, yeah, just by like tone and cues and body language and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's well done.
Yeah, it is. I did the same thing too. I tried to turn on subtitles too. I was like, okay, and then I was like, oh, there isn't any. Okay, no. This is just how it is. All right, cool. Yeah. So yeah, you continue with that, and what happens kind of right away that begins their journey is their dad is like deathly sick. He's not doing well, and they see him, and this introduces you to how you'll play the game, which is you play as both brothers at the same time. So the left side of your controller controls the older brother, the right side controls the younger one, and so the game begins by you putting your dad in a cart and then wheeling it to the doctor together. So this sort of gives you this whole game is essentially going to be the two of them working together to do various tasks to do this journey. And so at the doctor, they find out this is a serious illness. You need to go to the Tree of Life, because if you get some water from there, you'll be able to heal your dad. And so our heroes, I guess, leave off on this journey to try to save their dad.
Yeah, it's a very simple setup, which is all you can really do. I mean, again, with this like kind of fictional language, it's just like it's a very simple setup, but it's you have a very clear goal. This is your quest, and that you start going toward it.
Yep, you begin going towards it. So first thing you do is just get out of town. Again, I think that this first, maybe even third of the game, but for the first bit of it, it's really letting you figure out how to do your most basic things. So for instance, the older brother will be like a boost up to the younger brother, who will get on top of like a cliff and then push something off that the older brother can climb up, or lower down like a drawbridge of sorts, or different things like that. So it sort of sets you up with, this is how the game's played. Almost everything you do involves the brothers helping each other to traverse wherever they're at.
Yeah, yeah. And then like the younger brother can like fit in between like smaller spaces, and the older brother has to do like the harder work, like pulling heavy levers and stuff. But yeah, like you're right, the first like third of the game is like a kind of extended tutorial of just like showing you how to make the brothers interact, and I think it's very needed because the controls are not intuitive. I mean, it's a really interesting idea having like being able to control both brothers on the same controller, but yeah, it's not intuitive at all. I mean, I honestly never got the hang of it all the way to the end. That you get better at it, but man, it's kind of mind bending, especially like when you can keep the older brother on the left side and the younger brother on the right side, it's fine. But the second they like switch over on the screen, I got confused, and then I would like die and fall off a cliff or something. But yeah.
I had the same thing. It was kind of a mindfuck feeling of like, how do you do this? And same thing, I was like, okay, how can I just put them on their proper side so it doesn't hurt my brain?
Exactly.
Or something like.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think by the end of the game I got adequate at it. And fortunately they made the game pretty easy. Like, I'm not someone who's traditionally good at puzzle games even, but I didn't have any problem here. Like, I didn't have to look things up. Like, I could figure it out. Yeah. So it's really user-friendly in that way, but trying to do both at the same time was definitely challenging. And I'm glad they made it pretty easy on us for a while of keeping it pretty simple, or you only had to do like one action that wasn't that hard, or that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like you only ever had to really be adequate at it, just because I mean, the game was relatively easy. There were a couple like platforming sections that were tricky, but I mean, all the puzzles were pretty straightforward. It was often like your first idea of how to solve the puzzle was right. And I think that's part of what contributes to making it a fairly short game. But I don't think that detracted from it at all. Like, the hard puzzles were not what they were trying to do with the game, right? So yeah, I don't think that detracted from it.
Me either. It didn't feel like it was. I think that it was made that way because to be in service to the other stuff, it was like, and they probably just knew that mechanic would take people a while to get used to. I can only imagine playtesting it, that there were so many people who were just maybe pissed and didn't understand.
Yeah, like what the fuck is this?
Right, exactly. Yeah, the very beginning, my first like 20 minutes or something playing, I was just veering all over. Like, it was definitely not going well in the beginning, and then getting adequate. But our brothers managed to leave town, and outside of town pretty early on, they meet a giant who assists them with crossing some cliffs. So they like meet him outside his house, and they talk to him and like show him the symbol of the tree of life where they're trying to go, and the giant's like, sure, I'll be nice, I'll help you on your journey. So there's various points where he'll like walk between cliffs, and then you'll walk across his arm, or he'll grab you and just carry you walk into his hand, and then he'll move you to the next spot where you wouldn't be able to get. Finally, they get to a spot inside of like a cave area, and the giant is too big to continue any further. The brothers can go in through the cave area, and they part ways for a little while because the giant can't go in, but the giant will kind of meet them on the other side is sort of their plan, it seems.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. Well, I think actually clarification, I don't know if I'd call him a giant, because there are definitely things later on that I would call giants. I thought of him as more of like a troll or something.
Good point. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point, because he's not a giant compared to giants later. So
exactly.
I guess,
yeah.
Maybe more of a troll or ogre or something like that.
Yeah, but he was a friendly troll.
Yeah.
For like seemingly no reason, we didn't help him or anything. He just like started helping us, which was cool. I mean, it set this like tone early on. I mean, I know it starts off with your mother dying and not being able to save her, but then you come across, I mean, in the first town there's this like bully trying to stop you, but you like get back at him like by setting a dog on him. You can like laugh at him, and then you run into this like kind of scary troll for a second, be like, no, he's friendly, he helps you out. So it kind of starts off then being like a little bit more whimsical, kind of like a fairy tale setting. Colors and everything are still like really bright. The vistas are really beautiful. But then you go into like a dungeon where the troll can't fit.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point because it does set a stage that not everyone you meet will be bad, which was interesting. Like we meet some other people later who again are helpful, which is kind of different. That people are like, oh, you're on this journey to this place, sure, I'll help you for a part of it. Like,
yeah,
which is a little bit different of an attitude than I thought. I'd figure it would be the brothers would have to fend for themselves always, but they meet other people along the way who are helpful to them too.
Yeah, they get a lot of helpers.
Yeah. So, right. Then they make it inside the dungeon. The brothers are there. And it seems to be maybe some sort of slave mine of sorts. There's various people who are, like, just doing mining work. But I don't get the vibe that they want to be there. Like, I don't think they're miners. It seems like they're captured by someone.
Yeah.
And then you stumble upon an injured giantess who's in, like, a big circle-shaped cage. Like that... like Mousetrap almost.
Yeah,
that looks like that board game.
Yeah, exactly.
And the brothers want to help, and they're like, "Oh, we want to help you. Like, let's step in," kind of thing. So the brothers have to work together to help the giantess escape. So they need to steal the giant's. There's another giant who's a guard who has the key. So you need to like steal the key from him. And then let her out, and then you need to trap that giant inside the cage. So you have some various kind of fun gameplay things of one brother like being distraction while the other brother is going to pull the lever, and all of that kind of going on here.
Yeah. This was like the first puzzle that took me like, I don't know, a couple seconds to figure out. Still not long, but it was kind of clever. Like, yeah, trapping the one in there and rescuing the other. And I think this is the first time. I mean, yeah, we said that there are a lot of helpers in the game. This is definitely one where you help the giantess, and then she quickly returns the favor. Oh, it's kind of funny actually. We let her out, and then she leaves, and the younger brother, I think if I remember, is like, what the hell? He like yells after her and too loud, and that's what gets the attention of the guard or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, she just leaves and they're like, oh, I thought we were going to team up, but you just left. So the brothers then deal with trying to capture this giant. They do manage to get it in the cage. And then the giantess comes back and helps them across. And then another giant chases after them, and the brothers need to trick it into falling into a hole. And once they accomplish that, the giant from before and the giantess help the brothers out, and they're like, thanks for reuniting our family. You guys can continue your journey, but thanks for helping us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is the vibe I got.
Yeah, it was a nice moment. They clearly had some kind of relationship, and yeah, we reunite them. They like hug, I think, and yeah, it was a nice little story arc for the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was nice and just good to see. I don't know, the brothers doing good along the way. I think this was like doing a quest for your dad is probably honorable anyway, but then seeing them like want to help people who are in trouble along the way. Like, this is our first big instance, but then we still see a few more after this, and it's like, oh, they're I don't know, good people, or want to be, which is, I don't know, kind of nice that that's who these characters are.
Yeah. And I think it plays into the like storybook feel of it, of just like, yeah, these kids like helping out on these little mini adventures, and like they're these like small stories scattered throughout. Yeah, which I think add a nice little flavor to it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. From here, the brothers pick up at a campfire in the middle of the night, and they start walking, and wolves approach. And so you've got this sort of mechanic going on where the older brother has a torch, and wolves come around you, and they won't come into the light, but if you go towards the wolves, you can kind of shoo them off. Which I feel like this was the first time where you felt like the fairy tale danger, I guess, so to speak. Like, the giant didn't seem necessarily, or not the giant, but the bad troll didn't seem necessarily scary, but was more like a dumb adversary to like fool. This one, the wolves seemed scary. It was like, I don't want to get eaten.
Yeah. And then, I mean, early on, like the first adversary, yeah, there's like a bully, there's like a dog. Yeah, the troll is like kind of dumb and you're not that scared of him. But yeah, you run into these wolves. It's dark at night. You can barely see them. Their eyes are like glowing and yellow. And yeah, it's the first time where it's like a little scary. I mean, the gameplay mechanic to like not get eaten by them is pretty simple. You just like wave the torch. But yeah, the tone starts to change and like your enemies are a little scarier.
Yeah, totally. You make it from your campfire to a cemetery. You wake up the person that works there. There's a bunch of light there, so you don't have to use your torch. And that person, again, helps you on your journey by unlocking the other side of the cemetery so you can pass through. You do this, and you're like, okay, maybe we can make it without the fire. There's probably not wolves on this side, but there are.
Instantly, there's a wolf on that side. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't think that through, ditching their torch. And while running away from the wolves, they get knocked into the river. The wolves don't come after them, but now they're going down a rushing river, so they have a new problem.
Yeah.
Also,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the younger brother is like terrified of water and can't swim, so he needs to like jump on the older brother's back to kind of float on him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say because it's actually a pretty important note. Yeah, the younger brother, I think both can't swim and is also like deathly afraid of the water, and the assumption is
Right.
like it goes back to his mother who drowned and he couldn't save her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so for now he like has to grab onto the older brother's back, and yeah, it's like a pretty scary, exciting sequence of them like tumbling over waterfalls and this like raging rapids, and they make it barely, and then they they get to the bottom, and the younger brother, I think like what happens? He like passes out, and the older brother is like scared for a second, and then. So this is I think probably my favorite part in the game. So like the younger brother gets to the bottom, he like passes out, the older brother like tries waking him. He wakes him up, and then you keep going a little bit, and all of a sudden you see this like giant hand, and the music starts to get a little creepy. And when I say giant hand, I mean like enormous, and it's clearly it's attached to a body that's like I don't know, 100 times bigger than them. And for me, this moment, like, just seeing like that hand draped in their path, like, kind of gave me shivers, just because it was like so shocking and unexpected. And I know it's a world where there are like trolls and stuff, but just that like sudden shift in scale, for whatever reason, was just like really shook me. And then I mean, yeah, you can say what happens next, but it starts to get a little wild.
It does. So okay. So yeah, that is wild. How that changes, and because you weren't sure what kind of world they were in,
Right.
really, like okay, you saw some trolls and stuff like that, but yeah, it just really changes things there. Okay, what happens next? On the shore, they end up finding a guy trying to hang himself. Also, right?
Wait, no. Well, so the giant, it's they go up the path and they follow like the hand and the arm and get to this ledge, and the giant is the mom, and so I mean, just seeing like something so big kind of gave me shivers. But then you see it's the fucking mom, and she has her hand over the dad, like clutching him, holding him down. Right? Am I remembering this correctly?
No, I think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the two brothers approach. The older brother gets in like a daze and can't do anything. The younger brother approaches the mom and like tries to like get her to release the dad or something like that. The brother comes out of his daze, and then all of a sudden like strangles his brother and starts like beating him up, and I just lost my shit. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Because For whatever
Yeah.
reason, it didn't occur to me that it was a dream sequence. And I thought that was really happening, that he was under like some sort of spell and was like killing his brother. But then he quickly he wakes up and it was all a dream. But that moment just like freaked me out. And that, I mean, it had been slowly growing darker, but fuck, that's like when it really shifted. And then yeah, like you said, like the next thing you see is a dude trying to hang himself, just like out of nowhere,
Right.
like no warning, is a dude trying to hang himself, and you can save him. Like the older brother lifts him up, the younger brother can climb up and like untie the noose or whatever. But then the man is just like laying on the ground, like sobbing and inconsolable, and it's just like, yeah, holy shit, this game just got real.
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I didn't write down the dream sequence. Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah.
And then to have this right after, and I think there's some dead people near him too. So it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is like, this game got really dark really fast. And certainly continues from here. It you know, because I think at the beginning, like the game described, it is sort of an epic fairy tale of sorts. And at the beginning, you're like, oh, cool. Epic fairy tales that I might be familiar with as children. There are points where it sort of feels that way, where it's more nice. And then the game continues, and you're like, oh, no, it's like the actual German version that's scary. Like,
Yeah.
it sort of moves that way a bit more
Yeah.
as you go on, which is cool and unexpected. From here, though, right after our kind of several scary / heavy moments, we see a castle in the distance, and we take a glider to get there. So each other gets on a side, and you glide across the valley to make it over to the castle. In the castle, you get there, and you need to scale it. You like crash the glider kind of at the bottom of the castle, so to scale it you need to climb up, and the brothers tie a rope to one another and sort of use each other to get up the castle, which was pretty cool. Once I got the hang of it, I liked it even more. But I think this was my favorite mechanic moment of the game, because it was fun once you figured it out. Of like, oh, dangle this brother, they swing, and then they make it to the next one, and all of that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, this was like the biggest mindfuck part of that gameplay mechanic, is because, yeah, they had to switch positions every time, and so you really had to think hard before you like let go of one of the triggers, because that's like how you held on. But yeah, once you got the hang of it and you could start swinging, it felt really cool. So I thought that part was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. Oh, we didn't say this, but also the game is pretty forgiving on your checkpoints, which is nice.
True.
They checkpoint a lot. So like if you, because I definitely dropped the wrong brother multiple times on this part. But there's, I don't know, probably like 3 sections within scaling the castle or something like that. So even if you mess up, you're not starting, 10 minutes ago. You're starting like 2 minutes ago. Like it's very forgiving, which is, I'm really thankful for. I think that.
Me too.
I feel like if it wouldn't be that way, it's like I'd probably mess up on the final one like multiple times before I made it through, like just because of like confusing myself along the way. So really thankful for their checkpoints. But yeah, really cool scaling the castle, working together to do that. Once you do make it onto the castle, you start climbing up the stairs or up the floor, and you get into a big room, and you again find a cage, similar mousetrap style cage, with I think it's a griffin trapped in there. It's like
that's what it looks like. I wasn't sure. It looked like an owl kind of first, but yeah, I think it was meant to be like a griffin.
Yeah, because it's like part cat, part bird kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it's trapped under there, and it's like really bloody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt bad just seeing it. I was like, this is messed up. You poor thing. Mm-hmm. And the brothers work together to free it, which is cool. Again, I think just doing good along the way. Yeah. And the griffin ends up saying, hey, you know, I'll give you a ride. And so they jump on the griffin and they fly for a while. But then after a little while, the griffin can't go anymore, and so it sort of abruptly stops. Not quite a crash land, but it stops and lets them hop off, and then it just collapses. Probably dead. It seemed dead to me.
It seemed dead to me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So sad, short-lived, cool friend. But the brothers continue on foot.
Well,
and
we should also mention what you rescue the griffin from. It's like under a cage, right? But it's in this giant room, and I mean giant. It's like a bedroom, but like everything is like the mom in the dream sequence, like at 100 times scale. It's clearly like a bedroom for a giant. There's like a bed and a desk, and it's again this just like really weird shift in scale that kind of freaked me out, and just like I guess warned us that they are real giants in this world. So yeah, anyway, they continue on, and
good point. You really see the scale, right? The brothers have to like climb up on a ledge, and they're very tiny on this ledge, or like they mess with a magnifying glass, right? For a second, they see one and can like play with it.
Oh, I didn't do that. That's cool.
It's like so much bigger than they are. Like they're you just see that that's a great point, is that they're so tiny in this giant room.
It felt very like Jack. What was it, Jack and the Beanstalk or something?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The fairy tale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It did, and it gave you again, like you said, with the dream, and then with this castle. Okay, like they are actual giants, presumably, because they have this giant castle, and we do meet them very shortly thereafter. The brothers, after being dropped off by the griffin, continue walking, and they stumble upon a battlefield full of dead giants. This scene again was wild, like just seeing the largeness of everything. Like I think you first stumble upon one dead giant, and then like you pass through them, and then you just see that there's many of them just scattered about.
Brutally too. I mean, it was just like they're impaled and bloody, and it's just this wild giant battle scene. And one of the things that I liked most about this moment is, so I don't know if you did this, but throughout the game there are like these benches that you can sit on and look over like these vistas, and they're scattered throughout. And I sat on some of them, and because some of them were just like, these are cool views, and they were placed in points where you were, I don't know, clearly supposed to like interact with them and look at the pretty scenery. And I did it a couple times, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then you get to this battlefield with all these giants of like who are impaled and decapitated and bloody, and there's a bench there, and then you sit on that bench and are just, it's not this beautiful vista, it's this bloody battlefield with like dead giants and like rivers of blood and waterfalls of blood, and it's just brutal.
Yeah. Oh, that was heavy. I was the same as you. I didn't sit down at all of them, but this was the one I sat down at longest, because I was like, I didn't think I was gonna get to walk through all of it, so I was like, I gotta see all of this. Like, this is insane. Like, didn't expect that. But you do end up traveling the battlefield, and a lot of it is trying to navigate around the giant corpses. There's one of the puzzles, you like shoot one of the giants with an arrow, dead giants with an arrow, and then maybe like a sword comes down and chops one of their arms off so they can go through. And I was like, oh, all right, we're destroying the dead. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. The puzzles before this have been like, jumping from one windmill to another, or like lowering bridges so the other one can pass. But now it's like the same mechanics of puzzles, but you're like mutilating these giant bodies so that you can navigate through this field. It's gross and brutal.
Yeah, 100% is. But the brothers do manage to make it through the battlefield. This is great. But they come upon a woman who's tied up to be sacrificed to a deity or god that this tribe of people seem to be worshiping in the area. And the brothers want to help her, as they've wanted to help people all throughout this. They haven't changed after going through a giant battlefield. And they recognize that this god looks like if they were on each other's shoulders and covered in blood. So they use the river of blood to make their disguise, and they walk up to on the younger brother on the older brother's head shoulders, and they walk up, and the tribe thinks the god is here.
Yeah, they start worshiping them.
Mm-hmm. Which gives them their opening to save the woman. They get up to her, they untie her, and they're like, "We gotta go." And she's like, "There's a boat this way." And so then we're all running away because our cover's blown. And they make it to a boat, a nearby boat. They get in there, and the tribe doesn't have a boat, so they don't come after them. And make it on our way out. We've escaped. We've rescued the girl. The brothers' journey continues.
Yeah, and so that's when they get on the boat, and then kind of again there's like an abrupt shift in scenery, and I mean you went from this like bloody battlefield, and all of a sudden you're like in this like icy tundra landscape, which again is kind of just like a jarring sudden shift. It kind of reminded me of the like sudden shifts in landscape from Journey, how you go from like this like sand and desert atmosphere really quickly to like kind of an underwater feeling, and then really quickly to like again like this icy mountain, and it's just like really jarring, but in a cool way. It just like kind of gives you a jolt of like, I wasn't expecting such a like a sudden shift, but again it's just like I don't know. I think the shifts in locales works really well, and in a short game, it manages to pack in a lot of different kinds of landscapes and scenes, and to do so in like a pretty fluid way that makes sense and feels right. I don't know if you thought the same.
I did, and I think the Journey comparison is great there for that too, because in both games it doesn't feel weird. You're just like. For this, it's like, okay, wow, they're really going far to get to this tree. Like, that's what it made it feel like, and it didn't feel like it was just like, cool, the weather's different or something like that. It's like,
exactly.
No, they're just, they're going far.
That's a good point. Yeah, it evokes the sense of like a really far, long, arduous journey, despite, again, being like a pretty short game, right? It gives that feeling.
Yeah, so yeah, I like that a lot. And the brothers have to abandon their boat after a little while in the ice. They can't go any further by boat, so they continue on foot. And they come upon a castle, and the woman says, "We can cut through there. This is fine." And so they have to use a catapult to get inside, which was funny. When the woman's like, "Shoot me on the catapult," I was like, "What?" Like,
yeah.
I was a little suspicious at first because I was like, "That's weird," but it works. I think in the fairy tale way that things like this would work. It's like, no, just shoot me in. You'll shoot your brother over. We'll do the crank. That'll get the drawbridge in, and you'll be fine. Yeah. And it's what happens, and it's cool. But like, at first you're like, "What? Like, how does that work?" But it does, and it was kind of fun to shoot them over.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. At this point, were you suspicious of the woman yet?
I was not.
Okay.
Were you?
I was starting to get a little suspicious because of the catapult. Actually, I thought we were gonna like shoot her over and she was gonna like abandon us or something. And I just started to question like, what's her role gonna be in this story? And yeah, it turns out you shouldn't trust her. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I was surprised like the brothers were. So
yeah, okay.
If I were on this journey, it would have ended before theirs. I wouldn't have made it. So they get in the castle. However, there's an invisible monster inside the castle. Also, there are snowmen all over of dead people who presumably lived in the castle before. Sort of like... they reminded me of like the frozen people in the Chronicles of Narnia in those books, where it was like winter came and they're just frozen. So there's people like that kind of all scattered throughout, and when the invisible monster is like lurking, there's a couple times it creeps up on you, and you just hide behind the frozen snowmen people to avoid being seen by the monster, and then it leaves, and then you can keep going. So this again was a pretty creepy like escapade for them to escape the castle of just seeing this like frozen, I don't know, wasteland world kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a pretty cool sequence. Like the hiding behind the snowmen in their exact pose or whatever. But it was interesting because I mean, so there was like the giant battlefields with all the dead giants, but then in this castle, there are all these like frozen figures, and there was the like trebuchet. There was clearly a battle that went on here too, and like somehow all these people ended up frozen, and it was like eerie in its own way. Especially so when you move the trebuchet, you have to like roll it over a bunch of these like frozen people, and you crush them along the way, and it's weird because like you figure they're dead, but it's just like kind of creepy in its own way. Totally is. I forgot about rolling it over those people. You have to roll right over them.
That felt kind of wrong. You're like, I don't know if I should be doing this. Like, are you sure, lady who told us to do this? And shoot you into the castle? But they do make it out of this castle. The bridge behind them like collapses on the invisible monster, like falls down behind them, but they make it across the bridge. And from here, they're pretty celebrating. We've made it through multiple kind of escape attempts with this woman. The woman starts flirting with the older brother. And at this point, the older brother is, I don't know, distracted from his mission and kind of thirsty, so he's more willing to listen to her.
Wait, so even you still weren't suspicious at this point, even with like the flirting and the older brother's distracted?
I was, when she said go this way, that's where I was like, I think the younger brother's right here, but I didn't necessarily think how bad she could be.
Well, I mean, I didn't either, but I definitely didn't trust her, because the younger brother, like, they play it so he has like an intuition kind of where he's like trying to tell the big brother like, don't trust this girl, you're like not thinking straight, because she gives him like a little kiss, she's flirting with him, and then she leads them down a path where the younger brother's like, no, that's not the right way, and the older brother's like, no, let's follow the cute girl, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was where I was like, okay, the older brother has the wrong priorities, but I wasn't sure how bad it would go, but it goes bad. It goes real bad. Yeah. The younger brother reluctantly follows the woman and the older brother down this cave path. They get in and they fall into this hole, and she starts kind of screaming, and then she's crawls up the wall and is upside down on the wall, and then the lights go out, you hear a scream, and then she's a giant fucking spider. Which, that was like really scary, actually. Like that
it was creepy.
Brief light, the brief like light turn out, the scream, and then oh my god, she's a giant spider.
No, that was out of like a horror movie.
It was. It was very effective. And the brothers are spun up in a web ball really quickly. And the brothers, though, while they're being kind of webbed up in the ball, start to shake, and the ball like breaks and falls on the ground. And they begin to fight the spider woman. And it works out where the older brother is outside of the ball, but the younger one's in it and sort of uses it like a rolling cylinder to like knock the spider over.
It's like a hamster wheel. Or not a hamster wheel, but like a hamster ball. You know how they can go in a ball and like run around like that? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect comparison. Yeah, it's like a hamster ball. So younger brother in the hamster ball runs into the spider, knocks it over. The older brother runs over, rips one of her legs off, and you have this sequence happen. I think 6 times because she has 6 big spider legs, and then 2 more like pincers that would be where her like human arms are, because it's her like torso upper half is still human more or less, but then the bottom half of her is the giant spider. And so the brothers work together. They rip off all of the legs, but on the final leg, the woman uses one of her remaining like pincer legs and stabs the older brother through the stomach. Which was like, holy shit. Okay. And
almost immediately he like his veins start kind of popping out and he gets like kind of greenish blue, and like it was a deep stab. So immediately I was like, oh fuck, this is not good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're like, oh, this is really bad. Like if he would have just fallen over dead in that moment, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense, because that stab was so like so deep and looked so like so rough. And then I would assume like you said, with the blue and green in his face, like he was poisoned in the stab too. So not alone is it's a bad physical wound, but also poison to go with it. So older brother is not doing good, but him and the younger brother continue on. They're like leaning on each other, and then they get avalanched. So bad luck continues, seemingly. They get pushed down by this kind of avalanche into the, I don't know, valley below. But fortunately, it is where the Tree of Life is. So it did get them where they wanted to go. And the older brother is too hurt to scale the tree. He's like, just set me down here. I'm messed up. Like, here's our water canteen. Like, go get the water from the Tree of Life, and come back. So you separate for the first time. Every other time before this, you've been controlling both brothers at the same time. This time, you only control the younger brother, so you're only using the right side of the controller. You scaled the tree pretty easily. You get the water, and come down to see your older brother, and he's died.
Yep. He's dead. Yeah, and the younger brother tries to like pour some of that water in his mouth, and you like have a moment of hoping it's gonna work, but he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. It's so sad seeing the younger brother like want to bring him back, or hopes he can. He's like tries to put the water in his mouth. It doesn't work. He like shakes him. He won't get up. He's dead. So younger brother mourns for a while. I think it starts raining, which again just adding to like the sadness. That's real sad here. Then the younger brother digs a grave and buries his brother at the tree. Or in that area, and you're like, he's really gone. I think before he buries him, he gets like a spirit vision of his brother like hugging him and like, I don't know, encouraging him to go on, which again feels really sad. You're like, this is
and the thing that actually got me the most was the actual burying of him, and it's something that is unique to video games. I think is what made this so brutal to me, is because like if I were to just watch it in a cutscene of the younger brother burying the older brother, super sad. What it makes you do, because it's a game, is you have to physically like very slowly go to these like piles of dirt and just like slowly bury him. And just the fact that it makes you do it in this like really slow fashion, it just like made it that much more brutal to me. And I think that's where I think that's a big reason why video games in particular are able to tell such moving stories is because because you are so invested, and because you're the one actually doing it. And it actually reminded me of I mean, so you're a big fan of The Walking Dead game series, and it reminded me of a scene in there which was brutal to me for the same reason, is because it made you fucking do it. So I don't know if you remember, there's a scene where like the main character Lee finds this little like toddler who's turned and is like a zombie and can't like stand on his own two legs because they like break, and it's just so tragic, and you have to put it out of its misery, and then you have to bury it yourself. And it's the same thing where like just a simple act, like it's just a button press, you just have to put the dirt on it yourself, but just the fact that you're the one doing it rather than just watching it in a cutscene just made it that much worse, and it's just harder to do for me. But I think that's where video games can, I think, outshine like movies or TV in terms of storytelling.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. This hit so much harder because you had to be a part of it. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't. And I think most of the time, I remember that scene you're talking about in Walking Dead with.
Yeah.
Because the kid, like, starved in the attic or whatever.
Exactly,
so
in the attic. Yeah. And then,
yeah,
what I didn't. So you
so
bury
sad.
him in with his like dog or something too, and like the dog's where the dog was buried. It's just that scene got me.
Oh, it's so fucked up. It's so sad. And I think a lot of times where Walking Dead like hurts you the most is like you have to be involved by making the choices, right?
Exactly.
It hurts you that way. And this one, it hurt you because you had to be a part. You had to partake. I had, because I think you have to throw like 4 or 5 dirt piles to bury him, and I think you drag his body to the grave. Like it's
Yep. You have to do that too, and it's so slow. Because
right,
I mean, he's like super depressed and is just like dragging his feet, and he's a lot heavier than the brother, and he's been working to like dig this huge grave, so he's exhausted. So it's just like this slow, prolonged process of burying your dead older brother. It's tough.
It's so mean. It's so harsh. Like a
it's
thing
mean.
To
it's mean.
Yeah. To have us be part of, and like that. Yeah, the younger brother's like just, you could tell like physically and emotionally exhausted. That you get that from the body language, from these actions, which is exactly how it would feel, how that situation would feel, I'm sure, but that they could convey it without having words or anything like that. Like, wow. I mean, that's this like little section. Like, this is one of the more special things I think in games that I've played. Like, the game overall, I like it. I think it's pretty good. I'm really glad I played it. But some of the parts that were especially good in this game are like upper tier to me. Like this section was just like, wow, what a thing we had to be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are areas of the game to critique. I think in particular like the controls, like we both said at the beginning. But like this alone is gonna make it a game that like sticks with me, it's gonna stick with me.
Me too, definitely. And I think would be one I would recommend to people because of that. It's like, although like we said, I did have some trouble with the controlling 2 people at once and stuff like that, but this experience overall is very worthwhile, and people should go on it for sure.
And I mean, that gets back to like what I said at the beginning, in that I think you should think of it more as an experience than a video game. Because I think, again, if you go into it wanting like intricate puzzles and like to challenge yourself with like platforming, or to have even like well-written story, like you're gonna be disappointed on all those fronts. So I would recommend it as like here's this like amazing interactive experience, which is technically a video game, but I think going into it with that expectation is probably the right way to go about it. But yeah, it's gonna stick with me.
Yeah, totally. So our sad funeral scene happens. It's rough. We're feeling pretty bad about ourselves. But a griffin comes. I'm not 100% if this is the griffin resurrected from before or if it's a new one. It's not quite clear to me. I don't know if you were
It
sure.
wasn't clear either. Yeah.
Okay.
The other one seemed pretty dead to me. It seemed
Me
dead. And then this one is like not bloody at all. This one seems like perfectly healthy. Um yes, I don't know, maybe it was like related to the other griffin, and this is like we help, like it's coming to save us now because we rescued
Uh-huh.
that one. Maybe is my best bet. But this also, like, in addition to the funeral, this scene got me too, because I mean, what I was thinking was like, okay, we came all this way, we got what we wanted to save the father. How the fuck are we gonna get back without the older brother now? We came so
Right.
far, and it just like everything seems hopeless. And yeah, this like griffin comes and saves us, and like it wraps
Mm-hmm.
its wing around you and comforts you, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
got to me too.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It was like such a, um, I don't know, a bright thing to happen amid this horribleness that the younger brother's going through. That this griffin comes, it comforts him. He gets on its back and he continues the journey home alone.
Yeah,
And so the griffin flies you, and you basically fly through all of the levels you've previously passed to get here. And so, again, I think it symbolizes the bigness, the longness of this journey. You see the ice, you see the castle, you see the whatever, and the griffin drops you outside of town, just outside of town, to go back to your dad. And the little brother walks for a little bit. He maybe makes it like across a bridge or something, but then gets to water where he has to go across. And of course, has his fear of water. I can't do this. My mom died. I don't want to go into this water. And a spirit of his mom like comes and encourages him, and basically says, "You can do this. I believe in you," kind of thing is what it feels like. Um, and so you walk into the water, and at first you're like, okay, how am I going to make this work? Like, I've never done this. And then you use the left trigger and you can swim.
yeah,
So your brother's mechanics have come into you, that the
yeah,
little brother can do this, which was pretty like powerful to realize. I felt like this experience alone made some of the turmoil of the
yeah,
controllers before so worth it, because you're like, oh, your brother like got you here. Like,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah, yeah. And they
Uh,
wouldn't have been able to pull this off without committing to that kind of weird control scheme. But
mm-hmm.
it's such a good example of like storytelling through gameplay mechanics,
Yep.
which is hard to do. But yeah, just like the moment that you figure that out, because it took me a couple of times of like I was trying to go into the water. I was hoping like
Mm-hmm.
the mother's encouragement would be enough, and like now you'd be like brave enough to do it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, what you had to figure out is, yeah, you use the left trigger, which is the action for the older brother, and
Uh-huh.
that was it was mind blowing. It was really really cool.
Yeah. It was super cool. And to like when you got to that water, you felt, before you figured out you could swim, you really felt the absence of your brother, right? You were sad about his
Uh
death
huh.
before, but then you feel his absence so much here. You're like, what do I do? I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the
Again,
little
and it's through
brother.
exactly, and it's through gameplay mechanics too. Of like this whole time I've been
Mm,
relying on the older brother to get us through these obstacles. Now all of a sudden I don't have him. Not just like from a story perspective, but like from a game mechanic perspective. Like I can't do this obstacle without him. I only can
mm-hmm.
use the right side of my controller. All of a sudden you feel empty and lost. Yeah, it's very very well done and just great game design, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, fantastic there, and that you really felt. Yeah, you felt that. You got that secondary feeling of the brother loss. You felt it when you saw him die. You felt it when you saw the burial, and then you feel it again here. But then you also feel the growth, or whatever it would be for the younger brother, when you do swim across. And you're like,
Yeah.
I can do this. Like I grew up in this journey or whatever, like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then you make it to another spot where I think you go across another bridge, but it's a lever that's heavy, so you have to use the brother mechanic again
Again.
to
Yep.
pull it all the way down. And you're like, all right, this is, I don't know. There's some like, I don't know, positive or hope. I felt like I could feel sort of amid the sadness, which
Totally.
was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you make it to the doctors. You like collapse, but you bring the water. The doctor is able to do it. We pick up later after this, and the younger brother is like walking around a little bit by his house, and you see your dad kind of up the way at the gravestones of his wife and the older brother. And you go and join him to pay respects. The dad like collapses crying after a minute, and the younger brother like kind of consoles him. And then you just see the game kind of pan out to the mountains beyond, and then it's like, brothers, Tale of Two Sons.
It's
and you're like,
just over.
okay, this story's over, man.
Yeah. 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 That. Oh man. So. Yeah. So the mechanic with where you figure out the puzzles at the end by having like the older brother's spirit help with like the left trigger, like you said, it gave you hope. It was like kind of ending on a optimistic note, and like you've completed your quest. You bring back the water that saves your father, and I mean I was kind of trying to predict how it would end, and I mean my thought was like it's gonna be like a melancholy ending where like he's gonna rescue the dad. It's very sad that the brother died, but the dad is gonna like, and the younger brother's just gonna be like totally broken up because he's gonna feel responsible not just for his mom but for his brother, but the dad's gonna be better. He's gonna like comfort the younger brother, and he's gonna tell him like it's okay, it's okay. But it ends the exact opposite, where the father just like breaking down over the graves, and it's the younger brother who's comforting the father, and it's just like this moment of, I mean, it felt just like really, really sad, ending on the note of like the dad breaking down. But then when you think about it for a little bit longer, it's like, yeah, it just hammers home the growth of the younger brother and how, I mean, he's seen so much, and for such a young kid, I mean, he's what, maybe like 7, probably 8, it seems, in the game. But he's just like old, well beyond his years. And yeah, it's this. So like, I think there's still a little bit of a positive note that it ends on it, but you have to search for it, because when you first have the ending with the father just like breaking down and it just ends, it's like, fuck, I thought there would be like a little bit of hope, but it just ends on such a sad note. But I do think there's kind of a little bit of positivity in just seeing the growth of the younger brother, and kind of knowing that the younger brother is going to be okay. The dad is probably going to be traumatized, and the younger brother too will be traumatized, but there's the sense when you think about it of like, he's going to be okay kind of thing. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do. I think that it's like the younger brother has like made it through this tough stuff, so to speak, almost like he's I think could probably move forward like the older brother does. Like the older brother through the game felt really like competent and capable and all of that, and I think that the younger brother being able to be like, I can do this, like I've done this crazy journey, I've done, I saved my dad, like that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, I almost felt like I think I'm glad it hasn't or didn't happen yet, but I felt like the way it like panned out and made the world big, it made me be like, is there gonna be a younger brother game, like on his own doing his own journey? Because like the way it panned out made it seem like there's a big world and this kid's gonna take it on. It kind of made me think that. I don't know if that's what they wanted me to think, but that pan out made me kind of wonder that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, when did this game come out? Like 2013 or something? It's been long enough where I feel like there's not going to be a sequel. Like at this point, they would have announced it.
I agree. I don't think there'll be a sequel either. It's been so long, but that made me kind of wonder that, like, was this his journey of growth, and then maybe it would be a different style game with him alone or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, there's still like the sense of that of like, more to come because he's so young. Like he has his whole life ahead of him, but he's this new person and needs to go take on the world's himself in a stronger version of himself because of everything that he's been through.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm glad that there was some of that hope though at the end because like you said, I was hoping that the dad would be consoling or things like that.
Yeah.
Instead it was like he's the strong one now, even though he's 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I feel like I guess we could move into some general thoughts on the game from here. Let's see. Okay, one thing I wrote down that I don't know if you have thoughts on this either, but we've talked about it a bit, but this is a pretty emotional game despite not having any dialogue in it. And I was trying to think of any other games that I've played like it, and the only one I could think of was Journey that you'd mentioned, where you don't really get, like, this isn't common, and I almost wonder if I had played this before I'd ever played Journey or something like that, like I can only imagine that when this came out, people were like, their mind were blown, like to play a game that's this way.
Yeah.
I feel like since then, like, not that I've played lots of similar games, because I haven't, but like this felt a little more familiar territory as just playing a lot of indies and stuff like that. It felt a little more familiar in some ways, but I feel like this probably blew people's minds when it came out. Like, I don't know if there were even games like this that common back then.
Yeah. I can't think of another game other than Journey. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that we both definitely thought of that as a game that tells a really compelling story with no dialogue at all. I mean, Journey takes it to the extreme where there's there's not like a fictional language like there is in here. So at least they're able to, like, there's communication happening and you can kind of figure out what they're saying. But yeah, definitely a unique aspect. I mean, yeah, I mentioned like a similar kind of way to go about this of like Simlish in the Sims, of like this fictional language that kind of sets the tone and you can kind of tell what they're saying just by tone and body language. And I mean, there's like Animal Crossing where it's just like gibberish also. Although I will say I hate the language in Animal Crossing. They're so annoying.
It is much more annoying. This wasn't annoying.
No, it felt very natural. I mean, it felt like an actual language that we just happened to not be able to understand.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, me too. Let's see. I'm trying to think. A lot of the things I'd thought of about the game we've gotten to talk about along the way. Oh, one thing I didn't mention for me is also with the controllers sort of being tough. The first time I played this game, I definitely got some motion sickness or something, like the first time. Like, it kind of messed me up. Like, I probably played for like 45 minutes or something and just felt like shit afterwards. And it was like, which I'd never had happen before. I've never like been motion sick for a game or like anything like that. But I think that something about it. Also, the way the camera moves. I wonder if it's the camera can kind of move sort of fast, or like you can kind of change it around. But something with it kind of messed me up at first. So I ended up just sitting a little further back from the TV than I normally do, and like brought an extra light in and stuff like that. And it got better as it went.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a problem. But the first time I played, I was like, I don't feel great afterwards, which was interesting. I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen to people very often. But I was surprised by it. Like, and I don't think that's obviously a game's fault or anything like that. It was just my body was reacted strongly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I didn't get motion sick. If I mean, I felt it in my brain kind of, because like we said, it's kind of a mind fuck, especially when the brothers like switch sides or something. And I think mainly I just sucked at it for a long time and just controlling them. And so I think, yeah, I didn't feel it in my body, but my brain was like, what the fuck is happening? And it hurt my brain for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me, I feel like those are the general thoughts I had that we haven't talked about. Do you have other stuff that you wanted to call out or notice that you thought were cool?
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing I wanted to reiterate was just like both the dream sequence and the sudden shift in scale. For whatever reason, they were just like so shocking and so unexpected that it kind of just like gave me shivers in a way that other games aren't able to do. Like it's not a plot twist per se. It was like a world twist. Like of all of a sudden, what you thought this world was is not true. And it's a rare game that I think can give me that sort of feeling. And it's only games. Like I don't ever get that sensation with like movies or TV. And it's unsettling, but in like such a good way, just because it's a unique feeling. Actually the first thing that came to mind was you've played BioShock, right?
Yeah.
So it's so different, but it was this very similar feeling to the plot twist in BioShock, the Would You Kindly twist,
Yeah.
where it's just like everything that you thought was true is just like turned on its head, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? What am I playing? So I don't know. I just thought that was really, really well done, and it's one of several moments in such a short game that just like hit me, and is gonna make this, I think, a really memorable experience for me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. This. Yeah, it is unique in that to have your scale change so much. Because then I was like, because of that too, I was like, are these even regular sized people? Like it made me question
Right?
that.
Yeah.
Even
like,
I was like, are we
really
pygmies?
small? Yeah, exactly.
That was like a weird throw off. It's like, wait, like it's just cool.
Yeah.
That yeah, super effective. Cool. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about the game, or?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, I guess with that we can move on. We've got a little bit of listener feedback, and then we'll talk about Let's Listen. So, first up, I've got Chris on Twitter who says, I love Brothers. The gameplay mechanic takes some getting used to, but I love the classic fantasy aesthetic and minimalist environmental storytelling. The atmosphere at the abandoned giant castle is brilliant, and that baby griffin, and they had a sad face emoji on there. So yeah, that griffin made me really sad. I felt like seeing the griffin being hurt, and then also the giantess being hurt. Her like leg was like really hurt too, and I was just like, these poor people, or like the world is pretty harsh here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way he puts it too, of the like minimalist environmental storytelling. Because again, I think that's like a unique kind of storytelling that only games can do. Like you can't tell a story on TV or on movies just through the environment alone. Like that can help set the tone, but you can't tell a story just through the environment. And it's not many games that can do it, but the ones that do are just really impressive, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, totally agree. And then last up, we've got Weatherman on Twitter who said, I played it 6 or 7 years ago. I remember thinking it was pretty and cool to control the two characters in a story about their relationship, but also that it never quite justified the feature. Like it was too scripted, or would be just as good co-op as it was single player. I think probably a little more in the middle compared to probably how we both have felt about this game. I think that to me, I feel like the game having, you controlling both of them about their relationship. To me, I feel like the end of the game really justified the experience.
Exactly.
Like, I think to me, I feel like that swimming part and like that I think made the whole thing worth it. Like, did I love this mechanic or would I want to participate in this mechanic again? Not necessarily, but
Right.
this experience itself was super worth it, and I think will be an impression that I keep for a long time.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we both obviously have our gripes about the control scheme, but the payoff from working through it, of the end and the swimming and like that made it totally worth it. But I mean, I do get the criticism of it feeling. I mean, yeah, the controls, it was tough, and I think the point about like maybe it would have been just as good co-op as it was single player. It's interesting. I don't know if I 100% agree, because I think part of what hits you at the end is the feeling of being out of not having control anymore of the whole left side of your controller. I think it wouldn't hit the same way if it was co-op. What's interesting is that I think it's unique to the Switch version, but I think they did add co-op to it.
Oh, really?
It was yeah, I think it was an option on when I paused it. I saw that, but I never got the urge to try it really, despite feeling like the controls were really clunky. Just because I knew it was built from the ground up to be single player, and that was kind of meant to be the experience. So I wanted to experience it like it was.
Right.
But I do see where someone could get frustrated and be like, why isn't this just co-op, right?
No, yeah, that was something I wondered. Like, right after I finished the game, I was like, I wonder if this would have been better co-op. Would I have liked it more? But then the more I've like thought about it, the more feel like I've been on the no, this was made the way it should be, and like that experience was worth it.
Yeah.
Even though it was frustrating at different points and all of that, but like I don't know, if it was co-op at the end, the person you're playing with just can't play anymore. It's like, all right,
I know, yeah.
You've been dealt out. You get to watch the rest of the game. Like,
I mean,
that could be pretty cool too.
Yeah, that actually, now that you say that could be a pretty like arresting feeling, that jolt of not being able to play anymore.
Right. If we'd been playing together and then we had to stop
the whole time, and then your character's dead. You just
yeah.
I don't know.
It would be interesting. I guess now I hope that I'm surprised by a game doing that to me. Like, I hope I play a co-op game in the future and it surprises me by, killing me off, and the person I'm playing with, I'm like, all right, you got to finish the game. I'm going to watch this with you. Like, that would be...
Yeah. Well, because it could still have the same mechanic, actually, where then you get to an obstacle that you can't do just by yourself. You think you're dead and can't do anything else, but you can still, like, have the same thing where the person who you think is dead, you press the right trigger or the left trigger or whatever, and it works. So actually, on second thought, I think it could work if you do it right.
Yeah, that would be unique. Yeah.
But either way, I'm glad I experienced it like it was meant to be, like it was built,
Yeah, me too. I'm glad I experienced it this way, but now it does make me curious what it would be like for co-op people. Maybe I'll have to go browse online and see if anyone played co-op and talked about their experience. If anyone listening has played co-op, I would love to hear what it was like. Know. Yeah, that would be really cool. Cool. I guess that wraps listener feedback. So now we're going to move on to talk about Let's Listen a little further. So you explained a little bit, but what's your podcast about? What's Let's Listen about? For someone who might want to check this out.
Yeah. So I explained a little bit at the top, but I mean, what this really comes down to is I wanted people to be able to have a full experience of a video game through a podcast, which, I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive because so much of a game is like, you would think of like the visuals and the actual gameplay, being able to control it, right? But my thesis going into it was that you can strip away both of those things and at the very least have just as good of an experience, if not better. it was a complete hypothesis. I just kind of wanted to try it out, and so yeah, that's exactly what I did. Is I took games that are just like really story driven and have great voice acting, great music, great sound design, because I knew it would have to have those things in order for it to work, right? But then I strip out the gameplay and the visuals, and I try to give people just like a seamless listening experience, so you can just enjoy the story. And so I'm the narrator, right? But I try to sit back and just let the game take the front seat. And I mean, so it really came about because I was listening to a couple other podcasts in this like new, I mentioned it, like audio only Let's Play genre. Like, have you heard of No One Can Know About This, the No Cap podcast?
No, I haven't. Do they do similar thing then?
So they're the ones that got me into it. They do only Final Fantasy games.
Oh,
and cool. It's these two friends who their goal is to play every Final Fantasy, and they record themselves playing it, and then they will go back and like comment. Their future selves will like comment on what's happening, and so they'll like explain what's going on in the scenes. They'll laugh about like how stupid they were in the past, and I loved it. I thought it was really funny, and thought I could kind of do something similar. I loved the concept. It was unique, I thought. But one thing that got me, I was listening to their season on Final Fantasy VI. Have you played Final Fantasy VI?
I have not. I've actually not played any Final Fantasy, so that's
never
like
played a Final Fantasy?
Yeah, that's a gap.
Man.
That's a big gap that needs filled for sure.
Yeah.
I've been a little intimidated because there's so many, but
there are a lot. There are a lot.
I want to play though. They sound like they're very cool and would probably be my jam.
I think they would be. I mean, so much of why I love them is the story and the narrative and the characters and stuff. So I think you would like them.
Nice.
But anyway, so I had never played Final Fantasy VI, and I've heard it's like kind of the best one. And I didn't think I was ever gonna play it, probably just because it's on older consoles and stuff. And I knew that there was like a big plot twist, and I was like, this is going to be a great chance for me to kind of experience the story without having to play the game, probably because I never will. And so I love the show. I love No Cat. The two guys are awesome. But in the first like 5 minutes of the show, they fucking spoiled it. They spoil the plot twist.
No.
And I was like, oh my god, no, I wanted to like experience the story. And that's just the style of their show, and
yeah,
I listened to the whole season. It's brilliant. Everyone should check it out. But that's when I kind of had the idea of like, I bet there are other people like me who don't necessarily want to play a game, especially like really story-driven games that can, I don't know, turn some people off who love just like gameplay and fast-paced gameplay. And wouldn't necessarily play these games otherwise. And so I wanted to give them kind of a way to experience these stories without having to play them, I guess. So that was kind of the genesis of it. And I knew to do something like this, I would have to pick very specific games that, again, like had just a great story right off the bat, but also, you know, you need to have great voice actors, great sound design all around. Music needs to add to the atmosphere. So the first game I picked, a game you know and love, was The Walking Dead Season 1. And so that was Season 1, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you listened to it. How did you think this like weird format worked out?
Oh, it's great. I think for me, if I weren't listening to like podcasts about video games, audio drama is definitely a genre I really like, and this really scratches that same itch to me. I feel like is what you bring. Like, I really liked like Limetown, or like, you know, some shows like that.
Yeah.
They're really cool, and so I think that people who are interested in things like that, this would be very much their thing. But I think too, like, your show is great for, I think, people who have listened. Like, I played Walking Dead multiple times. Listening to it again was a really fun way to enjoy a story I know in a new way, and, you know, de-emphasize things like seeing it and re-emphasizing things like hearing, like that was cool to hear all of that. And then I think great for people who haven't, when you were describing the Final Fantasy VI and experiencing that way, I was like, that sounds great. Like if there are games I can't play, that would be totally a way I would want, like that. Because I think for someone like me, at least, I'd be way more likely to do that than watch a Let's Play, like watch one itself.
Exactly.
Because I'm a big podcast while I'm in the car or podcast while I work kind of person. So to get to enjoy a story like that through working while I'm at work or something, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that was another thing is like there are on YouTube all sorts of Let's Plays. In particular, I mean, like no commentary Let's Plays, which is like the closest corollary to what I do. But where you can like, sort of experience the whole game without, someone butting in and like making jokes all the time and stuff.
Sure.
But you have to be sitting down watching a screen for, 10, 15 hours to do that. And I don't know. I don't think that's a great experience. I think it's, I don't think everyone has the time for that necessarily. Like, I listen to podcasts, in the car, on the commute, or when I'm working out or something like that. I thought people would be more likely to want to do that. So I don't know. It's a gamble, and but I don't know. Yeah, it's been fun. I think it works. It's totally different, but it's been fun.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And so you did Walking Dead, and then you did another game. What was the second game you did?
So season 2 was Grim Fandango.
Okay.
Totally different. It's this 90s point-and-click adventure game from LucasArts. It's heavy in puzzles, and it's this like crime, like film noir crime story of this like down on his luck travel salesman who's selling travel packages to people who are newly dead on their in the land of the dead. So it like mixes like film noir and like Mexican folklore in the land of the dead. So he's selling travel packages to these people who want to get to the ninth underworld, and but he like can't sell his tickets to pay off like his debt, and so there's this whole like conspiracy that he has to figure out, and it's pretty goofy and funny in like stark contrast to The Walking Dead, which is like dead serious and dark and intense. And I wanted to do something that was a lot lighter and more fun, both for the audience and myself, just because like narrating on The Walking Dead, like you have to get really into it and listen to the same like dark scenes over and over again, and it was like kind of taxing on my mental health. So I want to do something that was a lot more fun. We were in the middle of a pandemic. I wanted to just like, I don't know, bring a little more levity. So that was season 2, Grim Fandango. Another one of those ones, I mean, it's really old. It's hard to play. The puzzles are just like, a lot of them just make no sense, and you have to look up a walkthrough. I actually don't recommend that people play it. I don't think it's a fun game to play anymore. It's too hard. The controls are awful. But it's like such a cool story and so fun. Memorable characters, really, really cool, like jazzy, fun soundtrack. So I think the best way to experience it now is to listen to it, because you get the whole experience without the having to go through the stupid puzzles and stuff.
No, that's awesome. I thought it was Grim Fandango, but I didn't actually know much about Grim Fandango. Just that I'd seen it on like cool stories you should experience kind of thing.
It's on all those lists. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you did it, I was like, okay, maybe I should play this game, but
no, don't play it. Don't play
it.
It
seems like it would be better to listen, so that's good, because I didn't want to, just jump into it right after Walking Dead when I listened to that, because I was like, I don't want to just burn through everything, especially if this is a game I should play first and like podcast my reaction or something. I wasn't sure, so this is that's good to know. I'm gonna have to queue that up then. That sounds really fun. That's awesome. Cool. No, that's great. I don't know if you have decided what you want to do next or want to share, so feel free not to, but do you have kind of ideas for the future as to what you want to do next?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I haven't made any formal announcements yet. I kind of have a short list
Okay.
of possibilities. Kind of the front runner right now, I'm looking at doing The Last of Us,
Ooh, nice.
which is, I mean, one of my all-time favorite games,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it really fits the bill of like of all those things I'm talking about. Were just like really great story, immersive music. I mean, the voice actors are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I like best about it in terms of making it into a podcast is unlike The Walking Dead and Grim Fandango, there are no choices in dialogue, because one of the hard things about doing those two was uh, you have to like play it perfectly in a weird way, in that like you have to like choose the right dialogue option at the right time so that the dialogue sounds natural when you're listening back to it, and you don't have to like edit out awkward silences or reorganize the conversation so it makes sense. The Last of Us is just like so streamlined in the dialogue and will require a lot less editing, which sounds great to me. So that's kind of the
No,
front
yeah.
runner right now.
No, that makes sense. That would I didn't think about that with Walking Dead, but that would really be a thing there of like some of the conversations definitely sound more natural. But
Yeah.
if you're playing, you'll just move on. But since you're
You don't notice when you're playing, but when you're
right,
listening back on it, like the slightest pauses when you're like making a decision of like what to say next sound really awkward and are really hard to edit out, because like sometimes there's music playing in the background. So if you try to edit out a silence and the music skips, it just like breaks it out. So a lot of times I would have to like start over and be like, okay, I need to do this conversation, say this thing, and then this thing and this thing, in like just the right timing to make it sound natural. So yeah,
oh
something like The
wow,
Last of Us, where things are more scripted, I think will be a lot easier, and a lot better. So
no, yeah, that does sound definitely better or more doable or less extra backwork. I'm sure there's lots of backwork either
yeah,
way, but just to make it a
yeah,
little more reasonable. And Last of Us is a great choice. I love that game too. Definitely one of my favorites, and
yeah,
I think is a game that could translate all sorts of things. Like I think it'd be great, uh, audio only. Let's play like you're doing. I think obviously it was great to play. I think it will be good as a TV show. I'm hopeful for HBO when that
yeah,
happens. So like, and I think that its story and all of the things are so. I want more people to experience it for sure because it's so good.
exactly, yeah, yep.
Yeah, cool. That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and then a couple others I'm looking at are, which I think you've covered. You've done Firewatch, right? I'm
I
looking at
have.
Firewatch as a possibility. I'm looking at BioShock too, just because I think the story is so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be cool.
and then I'm not ready to tackle these yet, but I'm looking at like The Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2, but they're just beasts of games, just so long and intricate and would be so hard. But I think, yeah, those are like my goals for the podcast, is to get to just something like that. But I'm starting with like these more streamlined, shorter games first.
That's a good idea. I feel like that would be like it would be really cool to get Red Dead 2 or Witcher 3 onto
Oh,
something like that, but holy shit. Yeah,
yeah,
that would
yeah,
be that would be a project. Like that would be
oh yeah,
I feel like different ones are already big projects, but that feels like a extra big
yeah,
one for sure. But BioShock and Firewatch, though, both of those sound like cool ideas too. Like those all
yeah,
sound really fun. I would love to hear all of those for sure.
yeah,
Uh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. I guess last thing is where should people find your podcast? Where can they get it? Where are you online? Any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. So you can just search for Let's Listen on any major podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, uh, yeah, anywhere. I have a website, let'slistenpodcast.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Let's Listen Pod. Yeah, I mean, people know how to find things. Search Let's Listen and Let's Listen Podcast. You'll find it. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, like I mentioned on top of the show, those are going to be linked in the show notes too. But definitely check out Let's Listen. Grim Fandango sounds fantastic. Walking Dead most certainly was. Go enjoy these experiences with Sam. They were really cool. I really enjoyed my time with Walking Dead. But yeah, that is, I guess, our show. So if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can, on Twitter, we're at StoryEverPod. Tweet at me. I'd love to talk more about Brothers or any other games you want to talk about, really. Our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. That has all our backlog of episodes. Also, we're on all normal major podcast platforms. There we go. That's available there. If you'd like to support the podcast financially, you could do that at patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed for as little as $1 per month. That will get you access to monthly bonus episodes we do. So talking about things like our favorite games from childhood or our favorite Pokemon, stuff like that. If that interests you, check it out. If you'd like to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, wherever you get your podcast, we'd really appreciate that. I think just getting to enjoy games with more people is really fun. I really enjoy getting to share these stories with different people, and yeah, so please share them with people you think would like this kind of stuff. We'd really appreciate it. And yeah, that is the episode. So we'll see you next time. And Sam, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. All right, well, have a good one, everyone.
Bye.